Hello, and welcome to Spirit Among Us. Ephesians chapter 1, verses 18 through 20. Having the eyes of your hearts enlightened, that you may know what is the hope to which he has called you, what are the riches of his glorious inheritance in the saints, and what is the immeasurable greatness of his power toward us who believe, according to the working of his great might that he worked in Christ, when he raised him from the dead and seated him at his right hand in the heavenly places. We've been taking a look at the wonderful implications of God's omnipotence. Nothing can stand against him, and we can hold on to this truth. Today I want to take a look at what Paul is saying here about how God has demonstrated his strength. One of the greatest acts of power was the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead. No one had ever been dead for 3 days and yet come back to live, outside of Lazarus, who was raised by Jesus himself anyways. But God demonstrated his infinite power through this act in Christ. There were a number of obstacles that were surpassed by God during the resurrection, and knowing the strength of God, we know that they were no match for him. However, they were all challenges that any normal person would have had a hard time pushing through. Without the help of God, many of the obstacles wouldn't be overcome, and therefore it's worth the while to take a look at them. The first was the actual burial site itself. We are told that when the rich man Joseph took the body of Jesus, he laid it in a brand new tomb and covered the entrance with a great stone. Now, this might not seem like much of an observation, but it's important to look at the word choice here. Matthew could have just stated that Joseph sealed the tomb, or that he rolled a rock in front of the entrance to seal it. But he knew that wouldn't do it justice, because Joseph had taken a stone that he hoped would keep people out. When he sealed the tomb, he sealed it with a great stone. Another obstacle that was put into place was the guard at the tomb. The religious leaders were worried that Jesus' disciples would sneak into the tomb and steal his body, claiming that he had risen from the dead. Therefore, as a safeguard against that, they put some guards at the tomb to keep anyone from going in or out. These guards were likely well armed and told to defend it at all cost. These first two obstacles aren't that extreme, but the next pose some real challenges. The first is that Jesus was dead in the grave for 3 days. Now, I'm sure most of us generally understand the concept of decomposition. If you've ever seen a recently deceased animal, you know that it begins to smell and fall apart rather quickly. One final obstacle that I see is the sheer brutality of the cross. I want to look now at Isaiah chapter 52, verse 14, describing Jesus. As many were astonished at you, his appearance was so marred, beyond human semblance, and his form beyond that of the children of mankind. Jesus, before and on the cross, was so injured, beaten, and bruised that Isaiah literally says he was marred beyond human semblance. He was so wounded that he didn't even look human anymore. I can't even begin to imagine what that looked like. But to think that someone in this state, who was destroyed bodily, physically, so much, would rise from the dead, or could have any life in him at all, would seem crazy. So I've listed 4 obstacles altogether. These are some of the major obstacles presented in the resurrection of Christ. For any mere man, there would have been some real challenges. For a man, moving the giant stone would have been a challenge, but with God it rolled away effortlessly. To a man, the guards at the tomb would pose a real threat to his life, but with Christ he just kept them in their sleep. Being a dead corpse for 3 days and being marred beyond human recognition would be a real challenge for anyone to overcome. Indeed, an impossible obstacle to overcome. But with God, all things are possible. The strength and power of God are clearly displayed in the resurrection of Christ from the dead. Thank you for watching, and God bless.